The Ravens started off their 2025 season with a 24-16 win over the Indianapolis Colts in their first preseason game of the year, and boy did it look like a preseason game. I mean that in a good and bad way, because in the preseason we always see both standout performances by players and hiccups or mistakes that we as fans want to react or overreact to. So let's do that. I would say that overall, I can think of more highs than lows in this game. There were also definitely some things that surprised me, and maybe they didn't surprise all of you. There were some young guys that really flashed, and I'll be getting into some of those performances and what it means for them going forward. I wouldn't outright say anyone besides maybe one player was able to completely lock themselves up a roster spot last night, but there were definitely some depth and bubble players that are making decisions tougher for John Harbaugh and the coaching staff. First, let's rip the band-aids off and talk about, in no particular order, the issues we saw during the game. First up, the backup quarterback situation is alarming. A lot of people are giving Leary most of the hate, and that's fair because he didn't play well at all and made a terrible decision on his interception. But Rush didn't instill any confidence in me either with his own interception. Now, to be fair to Rush, it's only one game and 3 drives in that game, so I'd like to see a larger sample size from Rush in Game 2 because I do think he has a higher upside. On top of that, I'd like to see the Ravens bring in someone else to compete for the backup position because I honestly don't need to see more from Leary. The worst part of the poor quarterback play from last night, in my opinion, was that we barely got to see our depth receivers get any work. Other than Wester, Wallace, and Kolar, only one other Raven caught a pass when targeted, and that was the running back Dearness Johnson for 2 yards. The other pass catchers went 0 for 10. Next, we need to talk about the horrible pass protection, which we pretty much saw all night. Were Rush or Leary great? No. Would decent/good pass blocking have helped them play better? Yeah, probably. I know it's preseason and everybody is already roasting Faalele, so I'll refrain from adding to the bonfire, but it wasn't only him. I don't know if there were more than a few acceptable reps from the O-line sprinkled in throughout last night, but at this point, all I can hope for is that when the starting O-line takes the field versus the Bills in 1 month, whatever issues we saw last night are cleaned up. The last negative topic isn't about anyone's play, but the unfortunate and devastating injury to rookie cornerback Bilal Kone, who suffered a torn ACL and MCL during the game. It's just a really unfortunate start to his young NFL career that we all hope he can bounce back from and get back to full health as quickly as possible. Now, there's no easy transition from that, but let's turn our attention to some of the more positive aspects and performances from the game, because luckily there are more than enough to go through and a lot to be hopeful for. There were a few offensive players that stood out last night, but 2 of them were absolutely head and shoulders above the rest: Keaton Mitchell and LeJohntay Wester. There's no other way to say this. Keaton looked like his old self out there. On just his 4th touch of the game, he bounced it outside and immediately burst up the field for a 23-yard gain. 2 plays later, on his next rushing attempt, he not only shoots straight through the gap opened up for him on the right side of the line, but then breaks a tackle and lunges forward to score the touchdown, somehow able to use his left arm to keep himself off the ground before breaking the plane. It was a phenomenal effort on top of looking fully healthy, and he looks comfortable playing football again. We need to remember that there are 2 sides to every injury, the physical and the mental. Both can require different amounts of time to recover from, and in last night's game, Keaton Mitchell looks like he's back 100% on both sides. LeJohntay Wester was a stud returner coming out of Colorado University, and going into the training camp and preseason, I was hopeful, but not overly so, that he could help us solve our lackluster return outlook. After last night, though, I feel like I should quote Shaquille O'Neal. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game. It wasn't just about him scoring. Several players may score during the preseason on different teams that won't necessarily contribute during the regular season. But on all 3 of his punt returns, he showed us not only his burst and top-end speed, but his patience and vision, which can matter so much more. On the first return, he bumps into a teammate, almost trips over another, and then still takes it up the sideline for 17 yards. On the second return, which he scored, he starts going left towards the middle of the field before using his blocks to cut back to the right sideline. He allows more time for blocking, and then when he has his opening, he blasts down the field for the 87-yard score. The third and shortest return, only 9 yards, would have been better if not for a penalty and if the blocking had been better, as Wester shot right between the first 2 would-be tacklers before getting met by 3 Colts players who took him down. Yes, the vision and explosive speed are great to see so early for Wester, but his sure hands and positive yardage on every return get me excited almost as much as his clear big play ability. He has already locked up a roster spot in my mind with his performance in this game, but I look forward to seeing more from him and others in the following 2 games. Special teams in general was a concern of mine heading into this game, but I was impressed with pretty much all of the returners. Yes, Wester was the highlight, but Rasheen Ali almost joined him in that regard after nearly scoring on his only kick return for a touchdown. Instead, the 69-yard return to the Indianapolis 24-yard line, along with a 19-yard run later in that drive, set up Ali for his 2-yard touchdown run. Tyler Loop was also a bright spot. After hitting both extra points on the touchdowns, he did miss a 46-yarder in the third quarter, apparently due to stubbing his toe during the play, but he bounced right back and nailed a 52-yarder right down the middle in the fourth quarter with 4:45 left on the clock. It was also good to see him improve during the game on his kickoffs to ensure that a touchback doesn't occur on every kickoff, even if our tackling on returns needs to improve as well. As for the defense, I was impressed most with the Ravens' pass rush as well as the run defense. I wasn't disappointed in the pass defense either, as I feel like both Jalen Armour-Davis and TJ Tampa had solid showings throughout the game, making some solid tackles and each recording a couple pass breakups. I like the explosive first step from both Mike Green and, surprisingly, David Ojabo. Not only did Ojabo have the big sack on Richardson, which, let's remember, he was unblocked for, but also had some good snaps putting pressure on the pocket, causing some hurried throws. Green and Isaac were the brightest spots here, though, with both showing speed, power, and serious tenacity. Both looked hungry for the opportunity to be on the field, and while I am more excited for the potential of Green, I am happy to see Isaac out there playing well after what must have been a frustrating and disappointing rookie season for him, marred by injury and setbacks. Hopefully he can remain healthy and contribute throughout the season. Now, I want to just run through some other players who I haven't mentioned yet, but stuck out to me for either positive or negative reasons, and just give a little stock up, stock down grade for each of the following with a reason why. The first stock up is Jay Higgins, who played well and seemed to show up everywhere in the second half, and it makes me feel a little bit better about our depth at inside linebacker. His interception was due to the quarterback getting hit, but to Higgins' credit, he made the catch and held on to it while being tackled, and that play pretty much sealed the game for us after Loop's 52-yarder. First stock down is Teddy Buchanan, and it wasn't that he played extremely poorly, but he just looked slow and somewhat out of position at times. Now, inside linebacker is a very tough position to play, and I get that. But with the uncertainty of Simpson's play, I was hopeful that we would see a bit more from Buchanan. But there's still 2 games, and I'm looking forward to seeing his progress. Second stock up is Aeneas Peebles, who was solid in the middle against the run and showed the attitude and energy that we've come to expect from him already. I'm excited to see him on the field more over the next couple of games. Our second stock down is a shared space, and it's for the 2 receivers that I was most looking forward to seeing in this game, Devontae Walker and Dayton Wade. Now, this grade is not a reflection of their play or abilities, though I was in fact very impressed with Walker's concentration catch while falling out of bounds. This grade is due to being disappointed that we didn't get to see more from these young guys and what they could do on a bigger stage due to poor quarterback play and pass protection. With Flowers, Bateman, and Hopkins taking most of the first-team reps and Wallace fairly well established, these other guys need these opportunities to show what they can do and get a fair shake to prove themselves. The last stock up is for the safety position. I know many of us are nervous about the safety position after Washington's injury and the Ravens not signing another veteran, but from what I saw out of Starks, Braid, and Kane, I'm less nervous. Do I think that any of them would be able to step up if there's an injury? Not necessarily. But as far as the third safety spot goes, I understand why the Ravens coaches believe that they already have the guys that they need here. Overall, I feel like the game went back and forth for the Ravens, and with great individual performances, and some disappointing ones from others, which is what you have to come to expect from a preseason game. At the end of the day, though, we have to remember that this team has barely lost any starting talent over the offseason, so many of the guys that you see fighting so hard to make the team are only vying for a handful of spots in practice squad depth. While there are reasons to be concerned about some of the performances we saw last night, there are even more reasons to be hopeful and even excited for the next 2 games before the start of the season. Believe in these guys to improve and trust the coaches to help them get there and ready for the next opportunity. If you guys enjoyed this recap, give the video a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and give me your thoughts and opinions on this preseason game down in the comments section below. And as always, guys, stay safe out there and go Ravens.